noting that it's 7:03 p.m. on September 4th, 2024. I'll call the Board of Health meeting to order. And first thing we'll do is have announcement of board member presence, since this is a virtual meeting. So Daryl Beardsley present.
Stephen Constantine present.
Julie Dreyfus present.
Diana Hook present.
Rebecca Honeywell present.
Oh, great. Okay. I don't believe, Jessica, we didn't have any items that have come in since I spoke to you last, so that would just be today, this afternoon, that are urgent matters.
No, I did not have anything that came up urgent that would require, the approval from you.
Okay. All right.
But thanks for checking.
All right. So let's see. We do have two variance hearings, but same property. And since I note that we have the food inspector here, there is an issue about a grease trap variance request. So I'm not sure. Tom and Mark, you're actually both involved in this one, I believe. So
Yes.
Yes,
would
that's
one of
correct.
you like to kick that off?
Do you want to go first, Tom?
Sure. So yeah, it came up in routine inspection recently that the Pilgrim Church does not appear to have an internal grease trap, which is required in the food code. I really feel comfortable with the plumbing inspector looking at this too, because obviously I'm not a plumber, but I can decipher and disseminate what the food code says, and taking into consideration that the kitchen is used outside of the peripheral of just being like a regular church kitchen, if you will. There's, the senior center uses it. There's been a proposal to kind of sublet it out to other establishments. Recently, just being a gentleman who may want to potentially use it to bake, I believe it's fruit breads. So taking that all into account, I think at a minimum, maybe it would be proper to have an internal grease trap, but they do have the option of, applying for a variance in the food code as an exemption. But again, I'd feel comfortable if the plumbing inspector, put his eyes on it first too.
I agree, because there might be, and here's the standard thing in industry, when you want to ensure that something will function properly, and grease going into the septic system might compromise it. An engineered solution is usually preferred, because then it's there, ready to capture any grease. It does get down the drain. There's another way to handle it. It could also be done by training or some other measures, or controlling what activities go on there, but that kind of knowledge can be lost over the years. Why did we have this rule not to ever dump grease?
Right.
And I know that they've described that it would be difficult to install maybe a more standard type of grease trap, and that's where the plumbing inspector might be able to indicate what alternatives could be out there.
And I know there's all various sizes that they have, and composed of different materials. There's the cast iron ones, and there's new fiber. I think it's a composite material that a lot of people have been leaning toward using in recent years, because it lasts longer and it doesn't rot out like the metal ones do. So all things to discuss for the plumbing inspector for sure.
And I concur with Tom 100%. And it needs to go through the plumbing inspector to see if there's any need for waivers with the plumbing codes, or if it's going to be required by the plumbing codes. So I think it should be directed to that direction for review by the plumbing inspector, and request a response back from the plumbing inspector.
Okay, and we should update. I don't know, have you been talking with Pilgrim Church just about what kinds of things, or you can relay this back to them? The other question I had is, do they already have a a grease trap in place between where the septic pipe exits the building and before the septic system?
I'm not sure if they do.
I don't
Okay.
believe so, Tom. I was
Yeah.
around, they put the septic system in, and that was around a long time ago. And I don't believe they have an external grease tank.
Okay.
Okay, so there's no backup alternative. kind of
Correct.
thing. Okay. All right. Any other particular issues besides getting input?
No, I think that will be helpful. And like you said, there is not an external one, so that's a good point to take into account that, we understand it's a low volume facility, but at a minimum, we maybe should have the internal one just as a barrier to, like you said, contamination of the septic system. I'm not going to approach this as it's a full service restaurant for sure, but it is a commercial permitted kitchen, so it might be beneficial to have the small internal one. But again, the plumbing inspector's expertise, I'll lean on him for this one too.
Also, given
Can I
I
make a
think what we
comment?
know about, yes, just a moment. What we know about the properties next door is that it might be a challenging site if their current septic system became fouled and they needed to replace it. So this is about extending the life of the septic
Correct.
system. That's there might be some financial motivation there.
True.
Well said, Darrell.
Okay, Rebecca?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, because it's Council on Aging and church, volunteer groups, I would be interested in making sure that we protect all the drinking water and all the natural resources that serve that property, because that's the last group we want to have something go wrong.
Absolutely. Agreed. Yep, that's true.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions or comments? Diana?
Well, my apologies, I knocked my computer over and I just had to reboot into the meeting. But in case it's already been asked, I was wondering if there were, in their letter, they state how difficult it would be to install a grease trap. Is there like another way of doing it, or an option that would be easier?
I think
Because
that's where I'm sorry, Diana, but I think that's where the plumbing inspector might be helpful as well. I know he can't consult for them, but he could suggest that whatever might be out there in the industries providing for these type of situations, there may be a type of smaller grease trap that could work, but I would refer that to the plumbing inspector.
no, I think that would be great if something else could be found, because as Rebecca said, if they're allowing other organizations to use this, and one of them, Council on Aging, they want to do a hot lunch. Not everyone is careful about not throwing grease down the drain.
It's true.
Okay, Stephen?
Yeah, so again, following up on what Rebecca said and the folks that are using the facility. So I think it was number 6 had to do with sodium. Does that require a posting? I know with restaurants it does. I'm not sure if it does with the church.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yes, it absolutely does. I think they did have something in there on the bulletin board, or they may even post the whole water quality report itself in a public area. So the administrator there asked if that would suffice. I said it was pretty reasonable to have that information. It's pretty transparent, and it's accessible to whomever utilizes that facility.
Does that water quality report include PFAS or no?
I believe it may. Yeah, I believe it does.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Rebecca, is your hand up again, or?
Oh, sorry, no, I have to
Oh,
lower
okay.
it. I apologize.
Okay. Does anyone else have questions? I don't know if anyone is here from Pilgrim Church, too. No? Okay. All right. Do we have any other items with you, Tom?
I believe that's it.
Okay. All right, well, thank you.
Oh,
for
thank you.
coming and weighing in.
Thank you, Tom.
All right,
Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
okay. Mark, have you noticed, are any of the people who have under agents business, is there anyone present that we might be able to fit in
Let me see.
minutes?
I see Rob Truax here, and he's representing 193 Forest Street.
Oh,
I saw
okay.
Rob here. Where'd you go, Rob? There he is. Okay, Rob is here. Yeah. I don't know if he's available, but that's a revised septic plan. If we have time for it, I can review it with the board.
Okay.
So,
Rob, is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank
oh,
you.
good. Yeah. Rob, if you want, if we can draw the plan up, maybe Rob can explain his client's request, and I have reviewed the plan and I'm okay with the plan. It's, but I figured, Rob, if you're here, you wouldn't mind reviewing it with the board.
Sure.
Yeah, so is this newer than what we had on August 21st?
Yes.
It is. Okay, does anyone have that who could pull it up? It wasn't in the document.
I don't have the plan on my computer at home here, so I
Let
can't
me
pull it up.
I believe
I'll
it's,
stop sharing if someone else has it. Sorry,
that's okay. If it's not, I thought it was with the, let me just see. I can let the board know they added an additional trench to get the needed bedroom count they're
Okay.
going for, which is 9 bedrooms. Yes, 9 bedrooms to help out with the building proposal they have, which is more rooms than what a 8-bedroom septic system would handle. So they're doing a carriage house as almost an AUD accessory unit. Stop using acronyms, sorry about that. As well as they have a barn they're working on, and that barn is the accessory unit, and a proposed cabana with living space and bathrooms and so forth. So, but Rob, if you got a better handle on it, I'll let you chat.
Sure.
I'll
No,
check
if you
plans.
recall, Madam Chair, at the last meeting, we walked through the floor plans for the house, the cabana, and the barn. And we came up with a room count at that meeting, and the 8 bedrooms was not sufficient. So we went back, and I talked to the owners, not the owners, actually the project managers who I've been speaking with, and we talked about eliminating rooms, et cetera, and their feeling was, let's just go bigger with the system. So I think we talked about that at the last meeting as well. We could just make it bigger. So it's now a 9-bedroom design. We don't need any waivers to do this. And, it is, I think we all saw the addition. The barn was, it had an exercise room in there and a big open room, and it had a loft that we weren't really sure what it was used for, but we counted it as a room. And then we had we had a 3rd floor room. There was an attic space, and I think we were talking about it, that does have a door on it. That was one of the issues that came up. So we did count that as a room. So that's all. It's really, we kept the room count the same, and we just made the system bigger. And they're gonna add 2 more trenches versus 1 to go from the 6 to 8. Now we're going to 9.
all right.
And I would say
Great that was able to fit in, and then.
yeah, I'm sorry about the
as
plan.
You mentioned they didn't have to compromise.
And they did not, and they actually put in 2 additional trenches to the existing system. The existing system has 4 trenches, and now they're going to have 6 trenches, and it does meet the requirements for 9 bedrooms. They did get closer to the wetlands. They're 126 feet to wetlands, and we require they be 125 feet, so they just had enough room plus a foot in respect to adding on to the septic system. They have added on septic tanks as well for both the cabana as well. I think the cabana and the proposed barn, correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, attached to the same tank, a brand new tank. It's a 1,500 gallon. And that will be included with the tank for the house, which is an existing 2,000-gallon tank. So, and they need to put in a pump chamber as well. So we're looking at approving the 2 additional trenches for 9 bedrooms, as well as the new septic tank for both the barn and cabana and the pump chamber. On a plan dated, and I apologize, I must have been looking at 60 Brush Hill, but the revised date of this plan is August 13th, 2024.
Okay. I had a question that I've now forgotten.
There's an existing, I believe, deed recording for the garbage grinder, correct, Rob?
Okay.
Yes,
Well, actually, Rob, I'm looking more at it. I believe you have designed with the 50%. So they actually,
oh, I was gonna say, I thought so
I
too.
apologize. They actually designed for the garbage grinder on this. The reason they can fit all this is they had very porous material on this site. So
Correct.
that's
Mhm.
the
All
reason
gravel.
why the system can suffice for 9 bedrooms.
Yeah,
Okay. I assume did Concom have to look at it again? since
Yes,
it
they
was
did,
expanding
and
towards the-
one of the members took a look at it and approved it.
Okay, great. And it's something over 80,000 square feet for the property.
I can tell you it's, let's see, Rob, if you can pick it up quicker than me, it's a 3.05 acres.
we go with 3
Okay.
acres.
Great.
So they can
Okay.
go with 12 bedrooms, give or take. I don't think they
Does
want.
anyone else?
Sorry.
Anyone else on the board have any questions or comments?
No, it's rare to see a site that can support everyone's wants. So it's great that everything is able to work out.
Yes, and Title V does allow you to add on to a septic system that was built after 1995. So they're fortunate to have that in favor of this process as well.
And even better that it's relatively new.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, then do we have, I guess you're recommending approval, Mark?
Yes, I am. And with no deed
Okay.
recordings for the garbage grinder, they don't need to do that.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the plans as presented?
Conditional to a pre-construction conference?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So moved.
Seconded.
Any other discussion? Hearing none?
Stephen Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Oh, you're on mute, Diana.
There we go. Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell abstain. I just don't have enough information.
Daryl Beardsley, aye. Okay. So Rob, don't go anywhere because now we have a variance hearing. This is a continuation of a variance hearing for 60 Brush Hill Road. And I can bring up that plan.
Correct.
Okay.
So I can share that one if you want.
I do have it, or if you'd like to do it so you can point to things as you're talking, your preference.
Okay, I'll bring it up.
Okay.
So the continuation was only for one variance that we requested, and that was for the single pump versus 2. The other waivers were voted, and we're having a
Yes.
hearing for the waiver on the well distance, which we'll have after this. So that was the continuation, was to give more time, I guess, or whatever. We couldn't come to a conclusion at the last meeting. Whether 1 or 2 pumps was required. We asked for a waiver to allow 1 pump based on the size of the system only being 1 bedroom and having, additional storage in the tank for more than 24 hours. So that was the request, and I guess at this time, you know, I would ask the commission what their feeling is on that.
As I recall too, the tank is 1,500 gallons.
Yes, it has to
Right.
be. That's the minimum
And so-
size.
Yeah, and so at the assumption of 110 gallons a day, that gives quite a number of days, as you mentioned at the previous meeting on this hearing. So I'll
Oh,
say
Darrell,
I
if
am
I can just,
inclined. Oh,
if I can.
go right ahead.
Just add just one point to that. So the septic tank is 1,500 gallons. Usually it's filled. But their
Okay.
the capacity would be in 1,000-gallon pump chamber, which that's where they would have their capacity, is in the pump chamber.
Correct.
Okay. And the pump chamber volume?
1,000
Yeah.
gallons.
Oh, 1,000. Okay.
And they usually have, Rob, what's your capacity for emergency storage?
It's usually, on that particular one, we usually have about a foot of, so it's 4 feet, so 75%, so about 750 gallons.
Okay, thank you, Rob.
Okay. So I'm inclined, because this is currently slated for just a guest house, as in intermittent use, not an Airbnb constantly used guest house. Do you have any sense of intended plans? Although I also have comments about if it's long-term, but immediate
I don't
kind of
know
use.
what the use would be. Right now, I don't think
Okay.
they use it much at all.
Mm-hmm. Right, I know they purchased it with this condition, that it had a cesspool, so this is a big improvement. My reasons for thinking that one pump might be sufficient include that the purposes of 2 pumps is if a pump fails, then you don't have use of the system. And it might fill up faster if it was a larger sized dwelling. And if it was one that was inhabited 100% of the time, basically, or needed to be, provide continuous service. If it's potentially intermittent use, and I would condition, though, the approval on if it ever changed to being continuous occupancy, that then a second pump would need to be added. But it is less equipment, and it seems like a bit of overkill to me to have 2 pumps that you're moving back and forth between, just to make sure that you have one that will last for something that may be used a small fraction of the time in a year. The more precautionary measure is to put in both. But if they're not going to be used much anyway, the chance of them failing from not turning on much is also there, where they could both fail if they're not being used all the time, or they could both have gaskets dry out or something else. So I'll stop there. So any other board members have any comments?
This is a shared, oh, sorry, go ahead. I'll raise my hand. Wait, my turn.
Rebecca, you can go. It's okay.
Yeah, I was just saying, this is a shared water supply, correct?
There's a separate well for the house and there's a separate well for this cottage. The well we're gonna get the waiver for is this well right here. This is the one that services the cottage. And I believe this one up here is the one that services the house. And then the
Rob,
one over
can you-
here services the barns.
Can you enlarge that picture a little, that area that you just pointed to? Just so the board can see it. That's perfect, so they can see the septic and the well.
Yeah, so this well here is servicing the cottage. And then this one up here services the house. But then this one over here services the barns.
I mean, I personally don't have an objection to a second pump, because I think the risk of a pump failing is higher than the risk of a pump failing because of lack of use. Having a backup is valuable. I mean, I think that's the basis of the regulation. But just thinking out loud.
Are you talking about well pumps or the septic system pumps?
The septic system pump.
Okay,
I
So
think
just
that
as-
there's more potential danger and risk of failure, contamination of the Course Brook nearby and the drinking water if there isn't a backup, if it fails. Then I would worry if it was the drinking water pump. Although obviously they needed drinking water, but I think the potential damage for if that were to fail is higher. So I'm just saying that I think there's a value to having both pumps. That's my input.
okay, thank you.
So Daryl, I'm going to agree with you that I think in this setting where we have a 1-bedroom, which is already a variance that we've kind of already granted, that one pump, given the size of the septic tank and the pump chamber, would actually allow plenty of storage for 1 bedroom. And so I would be comfortable with 1 pump in this setting. I think it would be, if in the future they were to ever try to expand this system to make it a 2-bedroom, which I'm not really sure that they would be able to fit that on, but in the future, if that was ever something that they considered, I think that would be a setting where I would like to see a second pump added when you're basically doubling the design flow there. So I think I would want to condition this based on if the system were expanded beyond 1 bedroom, that a second pump would be added.
I agree. And I'd couple that with again, that concept, if it's continuous occupancy or something that someone's relying on, the point of a second pump is to avoid a delay in both purchasing a pump and having it installed if one was to fail. So if people had to rely on this as their place of residence virtually 100% of the time, then I would not think it could continue as a 1 pump. That then does become risky.
And Daryl, I think we had also briefly discussed the pump alarm and
Mhm.
got a little off track. We were talking about some wild stuff, but I think that I personally would feel perfectly comfortable with the pump alarm being where it normally is, which is inside the structure. I don't think that we need to create the public nuisance of this going off outside at 2 a.m. when somebody is away on vacation. I just don't think it's going to be necessary. I think we should allow it to just be in the same space that it always is.
And if I can just add,
Okay.
this is a repair. We're not, the board is reviewing it, but discussions for a repair to replace the cesspool. It's not for new construction.
Yes, thank you. And exceptionally good to get rid of the cesspool.
Yes.
Okay, any other board members have any comments? Otherwise, I'll take see Bob's hand is up. Okay, Bob.
Yeah, hi. Just a couple of quick, what I think are minor questions. I was notified as an abutter, Rob, because I own 34 Brush Hill, as you may know. Can you tell me how far the system you're putting in is from my property line at 34 Brush Hill?
Oh, God.
I think it's a long way, but I couldn't really.
Yeah, it's a long way.
Well, you sent me a letter, so that made me think it had to be somewhat nearby.
It's because our property is about, what is it, it's 20-something acres. And they go from the property line when they notify abutters, and they go 300 feet from the property line.
Okay, yeah.
So you could be you're probably over 1,000 feet.
From the system itself.
Oh, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
probably, to get to that back property line, I'm over 1,000 feet.
Yeah. Okay,
Problem
that's
is, the
good.
piece is so big, we got so many neighbors. I had like 40-something abutters.
Yeah.
And
Anyway, okay, great. Thank you very much.
just for the aid of the plan to the top, right, you can see the locust plan, that sharp corner on Brush Hill. So it kind of shows the property there. Thank you for
And
pointing.
the system's right here, down at the corner.
Okay,
In this
yeah.
locus, so that's the big piece. That's like 20-something acres. It hits,
Yeah, I just couldn't
unfortunately,
figure out why I got that notice, because it's a long road.
it goes 300 feet from that property line way out here. So this is over 1,000 feet to get to the back of the lot.
Great, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Actually, I think there's another condition now that, right, my attention has been drawn back to that, thinking about if we did check a little bit with the assessors about this, and it really is 3 separate parcels that are just under single ownership. It could be, individual parcels could be sold off as any other parcels could be. And so I think a deed recording would also need to indicate that if that was to happen, that there would have to be adjustments made because there's some overlapping. I mean, it's being treated as a single property. So I think some of the infrastructure of the water and septic management cross over property lines and parcel lines, not the overall property, cross over parcel lines. It would have to have some provision, say that that would need to be re-examined because to cut off, I just think future buyers should be aware that if they bought the little cottage, for example, I don't know if the septic system and well connected with it is wholly on the parcel it's on. Looks like it would be for
Madam
the
Chair, they
well,
could
but
not
not for
do
the
that.
septic.
They couldn't sell these parcels separately in the configuration they're in. They would make the house non-conforming. The house sits on a if you were to sell separately, it doesn't have legal frontage. The house, the existing dwelling. So when this was built, what did we build this, Mark, like 2010-ish? So at that time, when this was
I
built,
believe so. The new house.
yeah, the building inspector reviewed all this as, being common ownership. And they have to conform with the zoning, so they have to re-subdivide this to try and sell pieces off.
Okay, so
Piece
there's
off.
some other measures in place
Yeah,
that would force
It-
re-examination.
it would force itself into a re-subdivision. They couldn't sell it off. The septic for the house is way down here on lot A, as it's shown under the assessor's maps. It's on the
Right.
complete. It's way over there. They'd have to either find a place to put a new septic for the house, which they wouldn't get waivers at that point because it's not an upgrade anymore. I mean, and then I believe when the guy did this house, they did a lot of testing out here and they weren't finding favorable areas to put a system in. And that's why they went with the upgrade from the existing house, got the system approved, built it, and then put the new house up with the same number of bedrooms. If you recall, that's how this went through back in whenever it was. I want to say it was around 2010.
About 10 years ago, maybe, Rob, around that
Yeah.
time period.
So I mean, they couldn't cut it off without some type of an
Okay.
approval from the town.
Okay. Good to know. Maybe we could check with planning board too, just to.
Yeah, you can check with the
Find
building
out or-
inspector too. He would be the one. He's the zoning officer, so he would be the one that would know all that.
Daryl, I believe Jessica actually checked in with planning today and they said exactly the same thing that Rob just said, is that none of these parcels would have the required zoning requirements and they wouldn't be able to be carved off as they stand. And it would require a lot of redivision so it would, it's
Okay.
not a concern, which was really nice that we don't have to worry about that.
Yes, I can confirm as well. Thanks, Julie.
Okay. All right. So we're still talking about the 1 versus 2 pumps, a variance to allow 1 pump. So present a motion. We can still have further discussion though. Do we have a motion to approve the variance to, oops, have it up, which, okay. Motion to approve a variance to section 7.2.4, which would allow a single pump system for the pump chamber.
You add in those conditions.
Conditional to, oh, no, I guess we could do that later with the plan approval. So that would be the motion.
If I may interject, well, but if you want a second first, Darrell, I can hold off.
So Daryl, you would add in the conditions as part of the approval, is that right?
Yes, yes. For
So
a
moved.
deed recording about this, the conditions of the pump use.
Okay, I'll move that motion.
And I'll second that.
Okay, any other discussion before we go to voting?
Darrell, if I can just
Oh, yeah.
interject for a minute. The pump alarms, presently the alarms are being designed on the inside of the house, and I know there's been discussion, should they be on the inside or the outside? Julie just brought it up previously tonight. I don't know if the board wants to say one way or the other where you wish to have the alarms for the pump system. Presently, they're being designed on the inside of the house, but they can move them
Is
outside.
that the
if there's
typical
conditions.
for this?
A lot of people are putting them on the outside, but in this case, the engineer
Oh,
has.
really?
Yeah, but the engineer designed them for the inside of the house. They're making
Okay.
the pump alarm circuitry and cabinets more waterproof, so they're more and more of them are being put on the outside of the buildings.
Okay, so it's not a requirement. I guess I feel like if someone was using the house and there was an alarm going off nonstop or intermittently even, that would raise a flag. And then if there wasn't someone there to hear it, then there's no wastewater being generated. That logic makes sense?
Yes.
Yeah, that's my thinking too, Daryl.
So does the board prefer or wish to have the alarms outside or inside? Outside's become the norm, just so the board knows.
Oh, it has become the norm.
And I could ask Rob to maybe interject as well on that.
Yeah.
The board so wishes.
Since the house is a bit of a, well, I guess if the neighbors heard it and I'm just thinking that the main house might be farther from this cottage than perhaps
Neighbor's house.
flooding properties.
We tend to put them on the inside on residential properties, you know, because the owners are there, and like you said, if no one's there, the alarm's not gonna go off because there's no flow and it's not gonna trigger it. Even if the pump fails, if it's not working, they're not putting any water out there if they're not in the house. And if they're in the house and it goes off, we want them to be annoyed.
Right.
We don't want them to annoy the neighbors, we want them to be annoyed, so they have to fix it and deal with it. Commercial
I would-
properties, we put them outside, it's required, because, you know, there may be, they just require them outside of commercial properties. And those are kind of the same instance, if they're not in the building, it's not being used, but on a commercial building, we put them outside.
Right, I guess the only time it could accidentally be used, sort of used, is if something in the plumbing failed and there was water flow. It would be clean water, but it would still be water flowing. The only thing offhand I could think of.
You're probably gonna have
I
water
don't
in
have
the
a strong
basement.
opinion on, yeah, I don't have a strong opinion on this one. Torturing the neighbors or connecting something, they could also connect the main house so they'd know if there was a problem.
You could, although they gotta run the wires up there, that's probably, I don't know if they could do it remotely, or they'd have to
Oh,
run
yeah.
hard wire.
Mm.
It'd be probably a little bit of a task to run a hard wire. If they could do it remotely, I would be in favor, but to run a hard wire up to the house, I mean, that's all landscape now from between the two houses. It's a pretty steep hill.
All right, I can see the value now of it being on the outside because it's very unlikely that something's going to overflow if it's being used intermittently, and therefore it would make it easier for the owners who may not be down there to know that there's an issue. But I don't think I have a strong preference. Anyone else? Steve? Oops, you just muted yourself.
So just listening to the conversation, it seems to me that if the trend is to go put the alarms outside, that seems to make a lot of sense. Also, given that the building's not going to be used consistently inhabited, it would seem to make sense to put it on the outside. And yeah, to get something outside and closer to the main house seems to make sense. I think inside someone just might not hear it. It goes off, and you're right. Something goes wrong with the plumbing, even though someone's not there. Like you said earlier, like a gasket dries up, and all of a sudden it's pumping water, or there's something else going on. It would just seem to make sense to put it outside. That's just my opinion.
I could be swayed by that. So
And
would
not
we-
going, and I'm not going against Rob, but I would agree too that based on this scenario of this request, being outside would be more noticeable if the house isn't occupied, if
Yeah.
it's intermittent.
I guess it is more robust in the event that something goes very wrong. So would we amend our motion then? Grant a variance with the provision that the alarm be on the outside of the house? Is that, Mark, would that make sense to do it in that manner?
I would agree. It would make sense as you're discussing this request for a waiver to
Yeah.
condition it to the alarm being on the outside of the building. And as I noted,
Okay.
they are making more compatible alarm systems that are resistant to the weather.
Mhm. All right. Is the board okay with reworking the motion? Anyone?
Yes, I think
Shall I
that's okay.
Okay, I'll
agree.
propose then, so do we have a motion to grant a variance to section 7.2.4? Provided that the alarm for the pump chamber is placed on the exterior of the dwelling.
I'll move that motion.
And this is to have one pump instead of
Yeah.
two.
Yeah.
Single. Right. So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, any other discussion? A hearing none, this would mean that an aye vote is to approve one pump, a nay vote is to not grant this variance, which would mean two pumps.
Will this be setting a precedent?
I can help with that, Daryl, if you want.
Yes, go ahead.
It will be setting a precedent, but at the same time, it's conditioned to being a one bedroom, which we may see more, but also intermittent use. which we may not see too often. You might see more one bedrooms for accessory unit developments or accessory development units, but as it relates to intermittent use, I don't know if you're going to see many of those, but yes, it does set a precedent, to answer your question, Rebecca.
Yeah, because my only comment is that, you know, thinking about public health, it's, if a septic system fails is when the abutters and other, like this, in this case, the course brook has the risk of contamination. If a person, you know, Daryl pointed out, was it the drinking water pump? No, because that would only affect the resident of the dwelling. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. Right now, it's intermittent use. Who knows? Maybe they'll decide to rent it to a student or somebody in the future, or a new owner. So I think we should probably consider the public health considerations in the decision. And I understand that the attempt to address that has been made by your proposed stipulation. So I just wanted to say that.
Okay, thank you. All right, are we ready to vote? Okay, go ahead, Stephen.
So Steve Constantine, aye, and that's for a single pump with an external alarm.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, nay.
And Daryl Beardsley, aye. So we'll close the hearing and we'll save the plan approval till after the other variance hearing. So I will open the variance hearing for, close this one, open the variance hearing to discuss the well setback for the same property. And if you would like to just give a little discussion on that, Rob?
Sure.
Move ahead.
So again, so this well that we're looking for a variance is on our own property. So it's this one right here, and it provides service to the cottage that we're putting the system in for. So the well's downhill. We have 125 feet to the septic bleaching. We are using an innovative system. We're using the Elgin drain system, so we do feel we're getting better treatment, and we don't feel there'll be any harm to that existing well. So we're requesting a waiver to a downhill well.
Okay, and Mark, any comments?
I believe it's a reasonable request based on the site. The engineer was trying to get the septic system as close to the cottage, in my belief, as possible. And unfortunately, it created a distance issue with the well. But when you look at, if it was to move, it might be off-site or close to it. So I think it's a reasonable request based on the site conditions.
Any other comments from the board?
We're going from a failing cesspool to an Elgin system. This is a marked improvement for the drinking water.
Right.
Very true. Are there any, I mean, I know Bob is in the butter, any abutters who have any questions or comments on this? Okay. So do we have a motion to grant a variance to sections 10.1.b and section 3.0.b or 8? Hold on. Make my thing bigger. Okay, yes, both the pertaining to distance between septic system and drinking water well.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, hearing none.
Pete Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Carol Beardsley, aye. Okay, so close the hearing, and Mark, are the plans ready for approval?
Yes, they are, but conditional to several deed recordings, if the board so wishes. Rob, I know you just unshared, but you want to go to your second page, which has the deed
Sure.
recordings, and there's an additional one that relates to the parcels. I think Darla was noting that as well.
Right.
So
Pull
the
up the
initial
second
ones,
page.
if you don't mind, it would help to see them all.
Oh, I
Rob.
could bring it up if you'd
Oh,
like.
okay, okay.
No,
I
I
have
got
it
it.
on my screen right now. Oh, okay, go ahead.
Is it up there? You see it?
Not yet, but it's working towards it. There we go, Rob. And it's further over to the right. They're listed in the center, basically, right there. Perfect. Yeah. So the board, you'll see at the very bottom, deed restrictions required. The first one be the notice of an alternative system subject to DEP's remedial use approval. They're using the Elgin 7B43 units, just so the board knows. A deed restriction would be required for the use of that alternative technology. I'd recommend that the board so move that deed restriction request. Note.
Mhm. Okay, and then no garbage grinder, because.
Oh, okay, I can, yeah, and
systems-
then the no garbage grinder. And then
Okay.
the 1-bedroom septic system that falls under Title V. In the chart, when you design for less than 3 bedrooms, you have to do a deed recording. And then the last
Mhm.
one is the one that was discussed. I don't know how the board wants to handle it. It's the parcel line to remain in same ownership. It's up to the board if you want.
Right. Less than, so here's the thing. So we've never had one like this, and I was going to try and draft some language, but really didn't know where our discussion would go tonight. So what we've done in the past is, following a meeting, just authorized 1 or 2 board members to work with the administrator on language for a deed restriction that we would then provide to you, Rob. You could share it with the homeowners. And if there are any questions or feedback, we could look at
Sure.
editing it or amending it. Would that be okay?
That would be
Okay.
acceptable.
Okay. But the general gist would be that the 1 pump will be permitted as long as it's not a continuously occupied building, and that if the property was to be divided up in some way that affected the either the water supply or the septic service to that dwelling, then this would need to be reevaluated. But that sounds highly unlikely, so I think speaking with planning board might help us decide whether that language is even necessary.
Sure.
It sounds like there would be other triggers prompt that kind of review. And
Yeah, that's fine. If you want to discuss that,
okay,
come up with some language, if there is something you want to put in there, we can, pass it by the homeowner and see where that goes.
yeah, 'cause I really don't think we have another one in our files that addresses anything close
We
to
probably
this.
don't. I don't recall any in
I'm
my
also
years.
Excuse me, Jessica, did you say something?
I'm sorry, Chair Beardsley, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to reiterate that I'm also available to assist in any capacity with the language needed if
Oh,
necessary.
yes. Don't worry. We are going to enlist you in this. So, all right. Any other questions or comments on just the plan approval before I make a motion? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the plan as provided, subject to 4 deed restrictions? 1 for IA technology, another for the garbage grinder prohibition, one for the Title V speed restriction about a one-bedroom septic system, and the last one regarding the use of one pump and conditions for conditions that would trigger the need for a second pump.
Daryl, which we said, those conditions would be if it's habited continuously or if it was ever expanded beyond a single bedroom.
Yes.
Okay.
And we'll check with planning to see if we need to say anything about some dividing up of the separation of the parcels.
I'll move that motion.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none?
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Darrell Beardsley, aye. Okay, well, thank you, Rob.
All right, thank you, everyone.
And
Have a
Rob,
good
I
evening.
would suggest probably holding off on getting the deed recordings completed until that last one's resolved, but
Sure.
as a
Yep.
package. Excellent. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mark. Again, I don't know if anyone's joined who falls under any of the items for your business, but maybe we should go through that.
Yes, and I'm not for sure. I see Deschang here, so he might be representing 39 Wildwood. And I'm not for sure if anyone's here for 21 Spywood, but
Okay.
I did see Deschang here. Let me look again to see if he's still with us. I don't know if-
He's here, Mark. and I
Oh,
know
Eddie Rose is here as well. So I see the
Okay.
owner, Eddie Rosa, as well as Deschang. Thank you. It's just
Okay,
all
so
these
let's-
names.
Hmm.
So
Let's do those two, and then we'll go to Brush Hill Homes and
Sure.
then come back to the rest of them.
okay. Oh, Deschang, I'm sorry. I see you. How could I miss your sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
Sunset. So 39 Wildwood, the owner already has an approved plan for that property and they're looking to do additional work in the garage, putting a living space in the garage. So with that said, we have the floor plans if the board wants to look at those, and I'll pull them up as
Okay.
one of my paper files.
I
You have
did
the
not
garage?
see. Oh, I think I have the floor plans and they weren't in the packet for this time, but we did have them before. Which meeting did we last look at those?
Yeah, and
Like I can share.
I was gonna say if Deschang has them.
Oh, can you
yeah.
share? Excellent. Great. I just had the overall map of the proposed garage, but not the floor plan.
So you can see that.
Yeah, if you could enlarge, well, I don't know. The key one is the second floor, which is to the right and the bottom.
Excuse me, Mark. Mike
Yes.
Curatola, I'm here as
Oh,
well.
Mike, I'm sorry. Yes, and Mike's here too, who's helping out with the project, representing
Okay,
the
great.
project.
So
So,
this is the second floor. If you're looking, so the stairs coming up to an open gym space and then coming to an enclosed office space with one full bathroom. So it's just basically depending on how we want to count it. If we're counting the gym space also as a one room, then we have two rooms. Otherwise, it would be one room and a big open space.
and The issue too is looking at the cabana, not the cabana, but the pool house area that's connected to the house. But first we'll look at this and the way I see it, it could be considered a bedroom because it's got a full bathroom off the gym area.
Mm.
Yeah. And and this is above the garage, correct?
That's a proposed garage, that is correct.
Yes, but by code, it would have to have a door separating it from the garage space. So it offers privacy. It could be treated as a suite, a bedroom suite, maybe. But it's definitely would count towards the bedroom count. And there are 2 rooms.
This is a detached structure, correct?
Correct.
Yes, it is. And the total septic design is 6 bedrooms, and they're planning to attach the plumbing both for the septic pipe and the water going into the garage through the house, but it still adds additional flow based on the bathroom and the setup there. So
And
I saw this as a bedroom defined based on the full bathroom, but I wanted the board to
Yeah.
look at this as well as the pool house configuration too with the full bath. But I'll let the board go forward with questions and questions they may have. You may have.
Can you refresh my memory about how many rooms and bedrooms they have in the main house?
Yeah, they I had it down the
Here,
first.
here, you can see, I have the plan up
Yeah.
here.
And what I have is, so far, there's no rooms in the basement. But the first floor has 4 rooms and the second floor has 5 bedrooms in the house. And the pool house either has 1 or 2 rooms, and then you have the garage. So, the garage I would say is an automatic 2. First floor I see is 4, plus you can look at the pool house, there's 6. Second floor, 5 rooms, there's 11. And then the pool house 1 or 2, so it's up to 13. And room count wise, it would make a 6-bedroom room count for 13 rooms. Obviously, the basement couldn't be finished, but unless there's a deed and it's underground and all that. But they're not at this present time considering that. Now with the pool house, that's connected to the house. And it does have, and Eddie and I spoke, the owner, it does have a kitchen. He prefers to do his cooking in the pool house area. He said that's how he does it presently. But the main question, not concern, is the full bathroom off the pool house. I don't know if you can enlarge the pool house area, Deshae. And what you have is you have an entrance to it through a little portion of almost like a closet area, and then you'll see the door opens up to a full bathroom, and on the other side a changing area. But the situation is it's a full bathroom. So
Yeah.
again, I know we've talked about hallways and is this considered a hallway? That's why I brought it to the board. I really needed some advice on how the board might see it as well, and maybe allow the owners to implement their review as well on it. But if that is a bedroom, by definition of a full bathroom off it, which is up to the board, then we're over the bedroom count. We'd be at 7 bedrooms, considering the garage is already considered a bedroom.
Yes.
You can look at the whole
It is
floor plan.
difficult because that bathroom is only accessible through that room.
That is correct. Yes.
So even though it is a little nook of a hallway, in terms of being shared by others, it reads minus the kitchen counters.
Well, and I was telling Ed,
more like a bedroom.
and I was explaining to Ed, I know his purpose is he just likes this second kitchen area, but if he ever sold it, someone could use that as a possible master suite, I know it shows tables and a couch and all that, but it could be a master suite with the full bathroom off it. But again, I know the board has seen plenty of different floor plans. The question I had is exactly what you just mentioned, Darryl, and that's the small hallway to that bathroom.
Right. If that bath was accessible by the hallway that connects to the from the main house to the pool house. Oh, but there's a door there.
Yeah, there's two doors, one out and one going in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it again, it's, I know the owner's present consideration is not to have it as an accessory or a master suite, but it
Right.
appears that way by the plan design.
Can I say something? This is Eddie.
Yeah, Ed, just,
Yeah.
I'm sure the chair is gonna let you speak. Darrell, I'll let you handle
Okay.
it. Yeah, no, I'm glad you're here, Eddie. Darrell, would you want Eddie to speak now?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I would like to.
This door on a hallway from the main house to the pool house on the right, which says number 3 on. This door is not, it's no longer there anymore. It's a window now.
How about number 10,
Oh.
Eddie?
Number 10
Yes,
is
close.
Number 10 is what makes it a private area that if you didn't have the kitchen counters in there, it would look just like a master bath. I mean,
so
a
what is your
master-
question? What is your question about number 10?
Is the door still there? Being open?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Ed.
Was here, but he said there's no door here, right?
No, there's no door there. It's an opening. It's a hall. And there's no door there. It's just a case open.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other board members have any comments?
And just for one more thing, the changing room
Oh.
here on 14 became a pantry.
It. What is that?
The
Sorry, I missed that.
changing room is
Oh.
a pantry.
A pantry.
Pantry, okay.
Yes.
Oh, that's handy.
Well, I just feel the house practically in this days, there's probably nobody's going to use it for 7 bedrooms, so it will be really diminish the value of the pool. So if people, after they have so many bedrooms, they can, we consider the ones at the gym above the garage as a bedroom, so I feel these days, I wish there's so many, only Ed can have so many kids, so we see the trend is nobody wants to have more kids anymore, have a big family. I wish the trend will be changing a little bit.
I've
I
been in
can
town
appreciate
for the
that,
past.
but-
I'm sorry.
But we look at it for potential. I mean, and that's what the challenge is for us, is that.
Right, how can we not to, under your consideration, so not considered as a bedroom, so I guess, yeah.
Okay, so right now, and, you know, I'd love to hear from other board members too, so I'm just trying to figure this out. If the door number 10 wasn't there, and if that pantry and bath area, I understand that the layout gets more complicated from what I'm going to say. But if you entered off of that hallway, which is open, and this pool house could not be closed off as one would expect a bedroom to be closed off, then I think it's more possible. And maybe, I don't know, Mark or anybody else, would just the removal of the door at 10 make it an open room that didn't have a door and thus have privacy that a bedroom would have?
And that is a major consideration. That way it's a open flow, not to provide, and it would be no, we're trying to look at it not to provide privacy. And that door does unfortunately make that room a private room.
Can you live without this door? Just make it big open.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Seems
not,
like it.
Now, if you're thinking about future, whoever buys the property in the future could just put a door there.
True.
And we're back to square one.
Yes.
Now, if you're thinking that nature, I just want to give you an example. If I decide to buy a car and the dealership decides not to sell me a car because I may be selling that car for someone that's going to be a drunk driver in the future, they're not going to make that decision based on what I'm going to be selling the car to. And I mean, I understand, and Mark knows me, and I don't like to cut any corner. I don't want to do anything that I'm not supposed to do. But I don't think it's fair for me to pay for something that's may never happen in the future. And for consideration, if and when I sell the house.
Eddie, we talked a little bit about this, the consideration for either the garage bathroom or the pool house bathroom to one of those two to be a half bath.
No,
Without a
I
shower.
mean, that's a consideration. I mean, I could do the garage as a half bathroom, but you guys are gonna count that as a bedroom no matter what, right?
No, a half bath would make a major
Oh,
change
shower.
the decision. If
That
you
will-
make if you go with a half bath in the garage, then that would not be considered a bedroom. Am I
If that's
correct?
the-
Am I
if-
correct, Darrell?
Yes.
If that's the case, I mean, we can do that. I'd love to see a full bathroom there, but if that's the case, as I said, I don't want to do anything to run.
Understandable. And
You
you're
remove
yeah,
this door, Eddie, I mean, it will be
I-
nice open flow.
Nah,
anyhow.
I don't think it would be a good idea, Duchesne, because if we open that door, and if we decide to open the pool house and leave the pool house as an open area,
I see, then you.
whatever
okay,
wind that's
good.
gonna come in with dust and everything, it's gonna go all the way into the house.
So the half bath in the garage would resolve it because your room count would be correct. 13 rooms for a 6-bedroom is allowed. And you would not have now 7 bedrooms. You would only have 6 bedrooms. The
If
pool
if-
house would be considered a bedroom because of the full bath, but the garage room would not be because you only have, if you decide to go with a half bath.
If that's the case, if that's the only way that you guys can improve it, I will go for it. But if
Okay.
you can rethink and approve a full bathroom there, because this kitchen, I mean, you guys have no idea what I'm spending that kitchen to become a bedroom. It's never gonna become a bedroom while I'm living there. And I do, where I live right now, I have an outdoor kitchen. Or pool, it's not attached to the house. It's pretty much the same concept, but it's not attached to the house. And
Yeah.
and
Sounds
you
like
guys,
It sounds like you like to cook.
I do.
But Eddie, your
If
general
you look at my shape, I like to cook and I like to eat as well.
Eddie, your general contractor had his hand raised, Darrell. I don't know if you saw that. And Rebecca just raised hers, but I don't know how you want to handle that, Darrell.
Yes, if the general contractor would like to make a comment. Before that, I just want to mention that when houses are going to be sold in town, people don't come to the Board of Health often to check on kind of the status of things. So seeing the plans now is pretty much our only chance to get to oversee some of these things. And that's why we do spend a fair amount of time on it, because this is the point to get things right and ready for whatever uses may come in the future with the structure, and certainly with assumptions about how we use structures and what have you. But we do try and be consistent for all the properties in town. Oh, okay, so was that Mike who?
Yes, Mike
or Michael?
Curatolo. Yes, Michael, did you want to say something? Your hand's raised. Maybe it's accidental. Mike, your hand is raised.
You're on mute, Mike.
Oh,
Mike, you are muted, so if you're speaking, you need to turn on your mic.
well, maybe we can come back to Michael and I know
Okay, so
Rebecca.
Rebecca?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna comment that, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
can you hear me now?
Oh,
Oh,
Mike is on.
Sorry, we went to Rebecca, so hold on a
Oh, I'm
moment.
sorry.
And come
Go ahead.
back to you in just a moment, Michael.
Okay.
I was
Go
just
ahead,
gonna
Rebecca.
say that it seems sometimes the rules are frustrating, but they're state and federal regulations and local regulations that we're following. So we just have to work within those regulations. We didn't write them. Well, we wrote some of them, but we haven't written most of them. And so we have to go by how the legal perspective on who has responsibility to do things. And unfortunately, this is our responsibility to do this, even if it doesn't make sense to you. And so you could write a letter to the Department of Public Health if you don't like that approach and see if that makes a difference.
Okay, Michael?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually had no comment. I just wanted to let you know that I was here because I'm not posted on there that I'm in the meeting. So that's all.
Yeah, Michael, you are showing up on the.
Oh, I am? Okay.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Thank you, though. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so it sounds like a change. Can we pull up the
Garage.
above the garage space again where the gym is? Okay.
So basically remove the shower.
Right. And I have to tell you, we often don't like to see like a big open space ready to drop a shower into. Or a bathtub.
Which
So
space
you
are
can
you
put a
talking about?
closet in there if you want.
Oh, it's a drop from the ceiling.
Eddie, it's in the bathroom.
Yes, it's
where
it's
the-
because of the because of the Mike can explain that better than I can, but it's
Okay.
because of the pitch of the ceiling.
I
There's no
see.
way to build anything underneath there. You can check on all the corners.
Sure.
They're the same way.
Could a closet be put in under that ceiling at all?
What,
Maybe.
off of,
Yeah,
behind
I
the
think we're
behind the
talking about-
bathroom?
Behind,
No.
behind the toilet?
No, right where
just
the.
change the shower into like a linen closet or something.
Yes.
No,
Yeah, we could, exactly. Yeah, we can put that into a linen closet.
Exactly.
Is that permissible
Yeah.
or?
Right.
That's what the board prefers, Michael. It helps to
Sure.
prevent anyone having an open space to put another tub back in.
There's no, I mean, there's no height for a top there, but yes, we can do it. We can do a closet. Yes.
Okay. That would work.
All right.
Well, it's up to the board, but I think now you have your 13 rooms, but not more than 6 bedrooms, because you're 5 above the first floor. Your pool house will be considered a bedroom, and there's your 6th bedroom. And your
Just
13th
changing this one to closet.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, because
Oh.
there was a first floor bedroom on the.
No,
in the
not
main
on
house?
this one, but if we can, Deshang, you have the first floor plans. I don't mean to have you bounce around. Daryl, would that be okay to look at the entire?
Yes, that'd be.
Because I
good.
wanted
I
you to
thought I
see.
saw
Yeah.
bedroom.
Go, yeah, keep going right there, Deshang.
No bedroom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It's
but
all
but could you share the
Yeah.
next slide, if Daryl, if that's okay, to show you the 5 bedrooms
Yeah.
on the 2nd floor? And there's the 5.
1, 2.
Okay.
And there's 2 more on the other side.
Okay.
It's a beautiful house. There you go. There's your 5.
Okay.
They call it a recreation room.
Oh, that we call it a bedroom because it's above the first floor.
Right, right.
But that would help resolve the going over the bedroom count. So if that's something that, Eddie, if you're willing to do that.
If that's the only way that we can make it work, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you, Eddie.
All right. Good.
Okay.
Okay.
They just either condition this or he has to get an
Well,
updated.
when he submits his building application would have to be updated with the new plan for the garage, which I know is actively on the building application. Just update the building plan to show the change to the garage full bathroom going to a half bathroom with a closet.
Okay,
Linen
so,
closet.
so Eddie, you got it, right? So you
Yes.
just need to have the architect
Yeah,
change it into a linen closet.
Yes, that's fine. Mike is there, so Mike can take care of it for us.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thank you, Mike.
Yes.
Let us know, Mike, let me know when you update the building app, because sometimes it doesn't notify me. It
Sure.
only notifies us the first application that comes in and it doesn't after. So when you change it, just give us a call.
Sure.
Appreciate
Yep,
it.
no problem.
Thank
No
you very
problem.
much. Thank you.
Guys, thank you very much.
Thank you, Eddie. Thank you,
Have a
Dacia.
great
Thank you.
night.
You too.
You
Bye-bye.
too.
Next one we have is 20, well, it's up to you, but if you want to take another floor plan review, we have 21 Spywood.
Okay, is there anyone here? Otherwise, I thought we would jump to
I
Brush
don't
Hill.
think, yeah, I don't think anyone is here, so that's fine. We can go back to that
Okay.
unless they may
Yeah,
show
let's
up
do
later.
that because we know we have at least one person for Brush Hill.
Yep.
So, all right. Actually, where are we? Have we received a new plan yet for the septic?
Which one are you on, Daryl? I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, Brush Hill Homes.
Well, what we're
40B?
waiting for is Form 11 and Form 12 for the new an updated soil testing that was completed a couple weeks ago. The owner, Bob Murchison, was here. He said he was going to have the engineers also show a new coordinated area for the septic system. So we're waiting on that information.
Okay. All right. I mean, we're just having this on as a routine
Yes,
item since
and hopefully those
we
will be
didn't want to
available.
miss it.
Yep, no, that's fine.
Okay.
And once they're available, I'll make sure they're on that. You can keep this on as an active item, and then once new information is received, we can add it to the agenda.
Okay. So Bob, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I just alert you that Mark is right. We owe you a Form 11 and a revised system. I anticipate that'll probably be to you very early next week. They're working on it this week and hope to get it out. But we've done, I think, what Mark was looking for, which is we've redesigned the system a little further down the hill, Mark, if you recall, based on the testing that we did.
I knew you were planning that. I just haven't seen the plan yet of how you're doing that. Thank you.
Hopefully early next week, we should have that.
And as we discussed in the field, when I look at that, there may be a need for additional testing, but I can't comment because I haven't seen the proposal.
No, I think we were able to actually design the field very much around the testing.
Excellent.
And feel pretty comfortable with what we have as it turned out. So great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else here who has any questions or comments on Brush Hill Homes? Okay. All right. Back to you, Mark, on
Okay.
21 Spywood.
Yes, and I don't see the owner, but what happened was they submitted a floor plan that showed a basement room. Do we have those available on file here?
I'm checking just a moment.
Yeah, if not, I can go over it with the board.
Sorry, my computer's a little slow. 21. I'm not seeing anything for 21.
Okay, so on 21 Spywood, they have a basement they're proposing, and it's a full bathroom within one of the basement. They have two rooms being proposed for the basement. One of them is one of the rooms has a full bathroom within it, and I believe it's one of those items that the board, and it's a walkout, so it can't be deed recorded, but I explained to the homeowner, I wish he was here, that would create an additional room that they're not allowed to have. The total room count is would go from 5 to 6 bedrooms, with that basement room being counted as a bedroom. So with that said, I told the homeowner the same thing I told Eddie is, could you consider looking at going with a half bath? And he asked that, the board take a look at it as well. But With
Okay.
this present situation, I saw him in the office last week and explained it as well. First floor has a kitchen, an office, a family room, and a living room, so it has 4. Second floor has 5 bedrooms. I'm sorry, I have to describe it. And the basement being proposed has 2 rooms. 1 room has a full bathroom, so you would end up with
Okay.
11 rooms, but 6 bedrooms on a 5-bedroom proposal. Again, the room
Okay.
count turns out fine. There's no problem with the room count. They can have up to 11 rooms. And that's exactly what they would have. It's that basement room with the full bath within it.
Okay. From what you've described, it sounds like the full bathroom is the problem.
Yes.
And unless they were going to somehow reduce a bedroom elsewhere in the house, which sounds like, what would the options be? Combining 2 rooms on the second floor? Would
That's a
be maybe
possibility,
one?
yeah. I could actually suggest that to them. Yeah, that's a definite
And
possibility.
was it 4 bedrooms on the second floor, 1 on the first?
No,
And
it's
then
5. They could look at that also, but right now they have the 5 rooms above the first floor. The
Oh,
5
all on the,
rooms.
okay.
Yes.
Okay. Uh,
Why not
That's
just
really-
recommend proper size septic system that would just accommodate that lovely house? It's a lovely
That's-
house.
Yeah, that's another suggestion
the
if
right
they
size
so
septic.
wish.
Then you don't have to
Uh,
worry.
I'd
And do you
have to
know if
check
their
the acreage.
septic
but-
system was, the age of the system they could add on?
Yeah, they're actually
Possibly.
putting in a replacement septic system. I should have mentioned that to the board. So their plan is they were looking for foundation only, and the owner said he was willing to wait for this meeting before I issue a foundation at his own risk. Because he will be pouring a foundation that has plumbing for a full bathroom in the basement. So I would add a point to there that the full foundation's not to include a full bathroom, but the septic system has to go in before he goes any further. And Rebecca, you bring out a good point. This would be the time that they could maybe reconsider going to a 6-bedroom septic system, as long as they have the appropriate acreage, which I believe they do on this road. So that's another good suggestion, is maybe increase the septic size if they so want, if they so wish to have this room. So
Okay,
those are
so that would
some
be
options.
3 options.
Yeah.
Um,
What was the half bath? Design
half bath,
septic system.
combining 2 rooms.
Okay,
combining
the 2
bedrooms,
rooms, that's right, 2 rooms.
Or making a suite out of them, right?
Yep.
Single entry point.
Yep, that's a lot of good. I can forward this to them with those suggestions.
Yeah. Okay, and, right, happy to consult with them if they want to.
Yep, yeah, and if they want to come back, our next meeting's only in 2 weeks. If they don't like any of those ideas, I can let them know
Yeah,
that they be put
Okay.
back on an agenda, and we'll make sure the floor plans are available.
okay. And if any other board members come up with other options,
Yeah,
let
share
us
them.
know.
Yep.
We'll
Excellent. I will
all
contact,
program ourselves to dream about it tonight, the perfect.
yes, and I'll contact the homeowner and let him know the status. He's also the builder. He's a builder homeowner.
Okay,
Those are our standard solutions to these problems, Daryl. I think that they're,
Yeah, they
Yeah.
very much, yeah, that's a good point, Julie. They are.
and it's nice that they have options to choose from.
And especially if the builder is the owner and they possibly are gonna flip this house, why don't they just do the right thing and then incorporate that into the pricing? They could absorb that.
I think according to the homeowner, he wants to live there, but again, we never know what's gonna happen in the long run. But I'll bring those 3 suggestions to the homeowner. If he decides on one of those, that's great. If he wants to seek the board's review again, I'll be glad to put it back on the agenda.
okay. All right, shall we
Thank you.
do Wells,
Sure. These we have on
the
file.
quintuplet of Wells?
Yeah, yes. They all came in at once. This subdivision has been slowly being built for the last 20+ years, Whitney Farms. And they are putting in wells per a court agreement. We usually require wells to be 75 feet apart. By the way, they have a central septic system that falls under DEP. So the constraints are the distances to the wells, and the court decided during the comprehensive review that they could go 60 feet well to well versus our 75 feet. You'll see on each one they're over 60 feet. You can see the distances noted in between each of those lines that you see there, and they're all greater than 60 feet. I would recommend all quintuplets be approved.
Okay.
But it's up to the board. If you should look at each plan. I don't want to push it that fast, but it's up to the board if you want to see the plans.
Mark, what about the distance from the driveway? Or I guess maybe this is the traveled way.
Yeah, it's a traveled way, yes, and they were giving a distance reduction to that as well. I think it's 20 feet. And I reviewed, but each one meets the court notice on what was required.
Okay, so Adams, Colonel Isaac, and Millstone are
Yep.
all part of. Okay. Does anyone want to look at any of the plans, or is it sufficient to know that they've met the requirements?
Well, I'm just curious as to how the court came up with 60.
Yeah, I wish I knew, Diana. I wasn't in the courtroom. And this goes back 25 years or so, and
Yeah.
it was a
Yeah.
compromise. There was a lot of, I was on with the board at the time, and there was a lot of discussion back and forth that shouldn't they have to meet our regulations because the state has no regulations for wells, but it was a back and forth they were negotiating back and forth with the town, the Board of Health, and the applicant. And then the courts made the final decision. How they got to that decision, I don't know why they went to 60 versus 75. It may have been a request of the applicant.
Yeah, that I was on groundwater protection at the time, and
Yeah.
I think it took about 2 years for that
Yes.
project
Yeah.
to be discussed, and it was continuous change and revision, and agreements with the developer all along, and then the ZBA finalized the agreement that had been vetted, and then they took it to the court anyway, appealed it. So you never know.
How many bedroom units are these?
Usually 4. They're 3 to 4, and they do have a large central septic system out there to handle all this bedroom count. But the average is 4 bedrooms in these facilities. You can see them from the roadside. It doesn't look it, but when you go inside, they're very large inside.
And are they continuing to build more?
Yes, they have they can go up to so many bedrooms. Chris Canny, our building commissioner, is keeping an eye on making sure that bedroom count doesn't go over. And they've been building for the past 20 years, one at a time, slowly. In fact, when they first started, the septic system was approved by DEP, the State Department of Environmental Protection, and they had to use a tight tank until the 10th unit was in, I believe, because they didn't have enough sewage flow to activate the septic system. And the septic system has been activated since the 10th one went in, and is checked on a regular basis by a sewer contractor. It's a small wastewater treatment plant is the official name of it.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mark, I have a question. So
Sure.
these wells, it looks like that are being proposed, at least 3 of them, the Adams Lanes, are all adjacent to each other.
Yes, they're
And-
like duplexes, yes.
And so is there anything, given the closer proximity and the fact they're all going in at once in terms of the pump time? Usually we do, what is it? 4 hours of pump.
Correct, yes.
And oftentimes we'll consider when you have kind of a number of wells in close proximity, we usually ask for an extended pump period to make sure that they're not interacting or preferentially pulling. But
And
I'm wondering what
that's-
happened in the agreement.
And that's a very good point, but we can't force them to do that. I will say one thing though, and that's a very good point, because we were out on Cider Hill Lane years ago to prove that even 75 feet, you still draw down a little bit on an abutting well to that 75 feet. There was some controversy on 2 wells on Cider Hill Lane, but as it relates to this site, they originally were thinking of they were going to utilize shallow wells. And that was one of the parts that was negotiated, to drill deep wells. And so that's a good part, because they're in their own fissures to some degree. And yes, they probably can affect the abutters well, but it's better than having shallow wells. So, but we can't force them to, and usually they drill one at a time and then they pump test it. So to have both of them available, and then they have to go back and pump test another one, or make them pump test it longer. We'd have to have a drawdown review of the other well, which we can't require them to do. So unfortunately, because we're under court order on how this is handled.
Right.
But it's a good point. I have a feeling they're already drawing on each other's fissures to some degree. Hopefully it will
Would
not.
be interesting to
Yes, I agree.
interview them someday about water supply, like at times of high demand. Do they
Yeah.
notice a change in pressure, for example, or,
Yeah.
or the yields of their wells? So
Yeah, no, I can
I
speak to
know when
the,
our neighbor, which is hundreds of feet away, put in a new well and was doing pump testing, we really didn't get much water for a while till they were done with that.
yeah, I have a feeling they're affecting each other's wells out there to some degree.
Yeah.
But they have to meet our pump requirements, so they do have, and all the wells they put in have passed our pump requirements, a minimum 2 gallons per minute for 4 hours. And most of them are producing 10 gallons per minute or more. I believe this site was also considered years ago as an aquifer to protect for a well in Holliston, if I'm not mistaken. It's
Yeah.
a
Actually,
very, yeah, go ahead, Darryl.
Oh, no, go ahead, finish up.
No, I was just going to say the area itself has been, when we were out soil testing, very wet, very sandy too. So the upper soils are wet and sandy. So it holds water in this area. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, it's one of the few parts of town. We have just along the border a few aquifers that extend a teeny bit into Sherborn, and this is one of them. So that may be saving them, because above the bedrock fractures that they're drawing from is an aquifer that's supplying the municipal, several municipal wells for Holliston. So if that, to the extent that that connects, that aquifer connects with those bedrock fractures at the interface, then there may be plenty of water.
I hope that's true for those residents.
I agree.
Okay.
Mark, just a kind of a
All right. So
more curiosity than anything else. Do you know if the Cadillac paint issues that they have in Ashland have affected any
It's a
of the
good
homes here?
Yeah, that's a good question, Stephen. And actually, the Conservation Commission was involved with that as well. And they put in 2 test wells. And Darryl, correct me if I'm wrong, because you were involved with this too. It was a shallow well and a deeper well between Cadillac Paint and this site. And they were testing it for a while at the very beginning. I don't know where that was left off, if groundwater protection's reviewing it or if conservation, but there was that concern. And the other thing too is Cadillac Paint has gone through the various stages for cleanup and cap. They just recently paved over part of that area as well. I'm not for sure what the site condition status is, because I haven't been working in Ashland for 5 years, but that was a concern, a major concern that was brought up through the process of review. And Darryl, you may have been doing some of that review too back then.
yes. Since I don't have a strong recollection of it, I don't think there was anything definitive found. Yes, contamination was known to be on that property, maybe some signs of some migration, but not anything triggering further action.
Yeah, that's the way I recall it too, Darrell.
But again, I don't recall if they were, I know it took a while for them to get to testing. I don't know if that testing improved over time or what the trend showed. I wasn't following it after this project.
I can do a
Okay,
little
so.
research.
Oh, yeah,
I can see if I can find
there
out.
should be something, right?
Yeah, if we have any of the test results, either through groundwater protection or through conservation for those 2 wells they put between Cadillac Paint and the site.
Or even DEP website on
Yep.
just, they have a website for all cleanup sites, the 21E property.
Yes, yep.
Okay, so
I'll get back to you, Steve.
this is where,
Okay,
yeah, this
thank
is
you.
where I always forget. Can we approve, I guess we should approve these one by one,
I agree.
since they are distinct properties. So do we have a motion to approve the new well for 7 Adams Lane?
So moved.
Do we need to say it by unit or just because it's a threesome?
Yeah, it's very confusing, the numbers and the units, but they define them both as an address as well as a unit.
All right, then, then the new well for 7 Adams Lane, Unit 18.
So moved.
Oh, seconded.
Any further discussion? Hearing none?
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Darrell Beardsley, aye. Do we have a motion to approve the new well for 9 Adams Lane, Unit 19?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? Hearing none?
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Darrell Beardsley, aye. Do we have a motion to grant to approve the new well for 11 Adams Lane, Unit 20?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? Hearing none?
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Darrell Beardsley, aye. Do we have a motion to approve the new well for 4 Colonel Isaac Way, Unit 48?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? Hearing none?
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Darrell Beardsley, aye. Do we have a motion to approve the new well for 15 Millstone Drive, Unit 8?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? Hearing none?
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Darrell Beardsley, aye. Okay, let's go, before we do the other permit. Jessica, would you like to discuss the 2 items under your business?
Absolutely. So I just wanted to piggyback off of our conversation and brief update at the last meeting about PFAS and discuss a couple of the inquiries that have come into the office and just let the board know what the health department is currently providing. Also, I apologize, my air conditioner is on and it's so loud. So for now, the Board of Health has always generally recommended that Sherborn homeowners reference the following guidelines from the state. You redirect them right to the website. We also say that if their lab results are of concern in any way, shape, or form, if they want someone to look at them, send them to the office, and we're happy to do so. And also, we have been in contact with Tom Trainer to hopefully reinstate part of our working group. And Daryl, if you have anything to add, I would love that. To reinstate our working group to follow up on what types of information we would be disseminating out to the public. So we're looking forward to that. Do you have anything to add?
Oh, there's so much to add on PFAS, but not at the moment.
Trying to keep it short and sweet.
And I think when we get through with, you know, some of the big things lying ahead, it'll also be easier to explore these other areas again.
I agree. I'd also like to add as well that there is a component of the website for the state that I could share with you if you were interested, where PFAS levels in wells by community are shown. And I believe currently there are 34 wells in town that the state has tested and has posted to their database. We've also gotten a couple of inquiries from homeowners regarding whole house filtration systems. However, that is not permitted under our local regulations, specifically a UV filtration system, just because of the permanent implications it would have on public health. And it's essentially not a long-term quick fix. We recommend to a lot of homeowners that are experiencing issues to take a look at their filters or their screens, or to see if there are any cracks in the well, or any repairs or regular maintenance that they need to keep up with, just to get ahead or to find the source of contamination and mitigate it that way. So they would then call a licensed well driller or another contractor to look at it.
And if I can interject just for a second, Jessica.
Yeah.
Thank you. You're talking about permanent infection of bacterial concerns on this here?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I didn't know if you were talking about PFAS at that point. Thank you.
Yeah, this is just an extension of PFAS, but I appreciate it. Okay, and then pivoting to our West Nile virus and Eastern equine encephalitis updates. We receive regular communications from the state about West Nile and Tripoli. And basically it discusses the areas that are affected by this. And I thought, and we thought, the health department thought it would be a great idea to create a website page actually, and provide an update. It's like similarly to what was available before COVID. I'm actually pulling it up right now so I can screen
Okay,
share.
I'll stop sharing. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, great. So if you go to our town website, you can click here and it takes you to this new page that we're updating periodically. It will show a notice to remain vigilant. We've had positive samples in Westwood, Medfield, Dover, Needham. Precautions can be found here. This is some general information. We have the precautions listed. These are pretty universal for both West Nile virus and Tripoli. They're listed here. And for more information, including, I thought this is a really helpful piece, looking at the local risk levels. So Sherborn, it's funny because we're in the middle of some higher risk communities. You would think that by default we would be affected negatively, adversely, but this is a really helpful tool where you could kind of see we're in Middlesex County here, and it shows you all of the areas. You can sort of click on it. Usually not found in our area, but it's good in case people have questions. So that's it for me.
That was great, Jessica. And I think that's for Triple E. And I think for West Nile, We are kind of an island surrounded by kind of a moderate risk, which makes me always think sampling error or not enough sampling. Not that we're actually like somehow evading the mosquitoes. But yeah, I think that's great for people to be aware. It's been out in the news. And just particularly the personal precautions that people can do, particularly around evening or early morning activities is helpful to know. And when the weather is no longer beautiful, we won't have to worry about this anymore. So.
Thanks, Julie. And if I also might add that if anybody from the board ever receives any updates or has any suggestions to updates that we put out, please let me know, because I'm happy to always include those in our regular communication.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you for updating that. Okay. We're back to disposal works installer permit for CN Construction Group. And Mark, have you or Jessica had a chance to vet them? Because they're new, I believe, right?
Jessica actually did the overview for the review of the references, and they all proved to be good. Go ahead, Jessica. I'll let you explain what you did.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, so we conducted reference checks for this installer, Bellingham, Metfield, and Holliston, and all of the boards of health in all of those towns noted that this installer worked very hard to familiarize themselves with each town's requirements and regulations, and was an overall pleasure to work with. We also received the certificate of, I'm sorry, Mark.
Certificate of insurance that lists Sherborn as
We have certificate of compliance and certificate of insurance.
yeah, but it's appropriate, and it was listed Sherborn as the party that's certified for the insurance. And Jessica brought out the points that about the reference checks, and I today was working with the person that designed 1 Pleasant Street, because that's where this person wishes to work, and he gave him high regards as well. So as I told the designer of 1 Pleasant Street, we just have to get through the pre-construction conference for 1 Pleasant. That's the area, that's the septic system he wishes to install. He was in the office yesterday, and I referred him to conservation because there's a lot of conservation needs for that septic system installation. So he's willing to work with us. So as I explained, once this gets approved, then we can do the pre-construction, so that way you can get started at 1 Pleasant. And I went over a few unique situations, like H20 distribution boxes are required, and we'll go over more of our local regulations when we do that pre-construction. But I would recommend approval of CNN Construction. The person is listed as Caesar, and I don't remember Caesar's last name, but I have it right here. And that's the person I would recommend for the approval.
Thank you, Mark. And also, if I might add, what was promising as well with this installer when I was conducting reference checks was that both Bellingham and Holliston had noted that this installer had worked with them on several complex projects. And so that stuck out to me as something worthwhile to mention. Because as we know, Sherborn has its complexities too.
and more larger projects coming. So, okay. So do we have a motion to approve the disposal works installer's permit for CN Construction Group, Inc.?
So moved.
And the person, if I may, representing is Caesar Alves, representing the company.
Okay. Does the permit go to the company or to an individual?
Well, it's listed as CNN Construction, but I prefer it to also include the installer's name, just like we do with other big installer groups, is to at least list the head installer, and that's who we usually do the construction.
Okay, so we could amend that with a care of Caesar
Alves, A-L-V-E-S. Alves.
Oh, okay, Alves. All right, so we had a move and second. Diana, did you second, but you were on mute? Okay.
Yes, I guess I used sign language. You understood me.
Yes. You looked affirming. Okay, so is there any further discussion? Hearing none.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Darrell Beardsley, aye. All right, so we have three more things, agenda items being the last. Open surface drain discussion. So in our regs, something that has rarely been addressed because we don't often encounter the open drains, but it came up for Farm Road last year and also for a property on Western Ave. And in our reg, unlike really, there are no references to open drains in Mass DEP Title V. EPA has some references to it. Basically, it's like a swale or a culvert, but it's somewhere that water can flow down. It's usually viewed as being intermittent, but not quite a stream, and to channel away storm waters. The concern that we're guessing on why a past iteration of the board included the term open drain could be because of potential for breakout from a septic system to reach that open drain and for people to be exposed to contaminated waters that way, which is pretty much why we have regulations to put our sewage underground, even though that doesn't get treated as well as if it was sitting on the surface and being used by plants. It's to get it away from people coming in contact with the bacteria and viruses, etc. So this issue came up because, again, and there was a meeting in town with the town administrator, Jessica and me from the Board of Health, Planning Board, Conservation. Oh no, Conservation wasn't able to be there. DPW, and someone else, and I'm just blanking on who the other person was.
I think it was Select Board, right? It was Eric.
Oh,
Was it Eric?
Select Board there? No, I don't think so. Bob Murchison was there. Because this issue could come up again regarding the new plans for Farm Road homes. Because the drain, the open drain that had been used to divert stormwaters, prevent them from flowing across Farm Road and creating icy, hazardous conditions in winter. A drain was put in by the town 3 decades ago or so, like the late 70s, perhaps. And then that was plugged at one point, and then it was opened again. And so now it's back to potentially being considered an open drain. And we have a setback of 150 feet. Is that the right number, Mark?
It is 125, I believe. I can double check.
125. Okay, that's 150. In any case, we had this meeting because this does have an impact on the Farm Road property and what options would be available there. The town is also concerned in general that with the stormwater management requirements that it is trying to actively fulfill at the moment, part of that is involving putting in more swales along roadsides. And they're wondering if it's just going to increase the number of things that have a challenge by having this drainage set up. So the question is whether we revisit what the motivation is for this, part of the regulation. when we had a property that was being redeveloped, so there were pre-existing conditions and to not allow anything for their new septic system relative to a drain, right, is taking away the use of the property. So we did grant a variance to that for a property on Western Ave. Part of the reasoning was that the bottom of the leaching fields was lower than the drain. So even if something odd happened, you wouldn't get any septic effluent flowing to the drain because the bottom of the drain was higher than where the effluent comes out in the SAS. So it would be helpful to the town that's worried about how they manage putting in drains, or whether they have to put in all underground drains, which is technically more difficult and also much more expensive. So they would appreciate it if we would revisit this part of the regulations to decide what we should do about it. So that's on the horizon. It needs more research. I've found limited information. I did find stuff in the past. I have to see where I saved it. Hopefully I did save it. I recall towns on Long Island kind of had movement for this, but that, who knows? I'd have to dig deeper to find out why they picked up on that issue. If we are asked to deliberate on farm roads soon, the only thing I could think of, because it's hard to write new regulations, as those of you who have participated know, takes a lot of time, and the process takes a lot of time just in terms of working through the regs and the drafts and revisiting and vetting and discussing. And then when we get to something we feel is ready to be voted on, then we have to post it in the paper, then we have to hold public hearing on it. So it's just a long, many months process. What we might be confronted with, the issue of would we consider any kind of variance in the short term if we encounter this issue before us. So anyone who wants to start researching that, that'd be great. I think we're all pretty busy right now, but you know, I did a little poking around again today. I think there are some conditions, like maybe we wouldn't just have a flat distance, but we would have some other conditions. But to study, like, as I said, if you have a septic that's above something and they're either a clay lens or steep slope or ledge underneath that could shed the water over into an open drain, you know, some kind of technical justification for it, that in the absence, or if the drain was uphill of a septic, then not an issue. There may be some other things that we could think about. So I just wanted to put that out there so you can, in your musings, taking a walk, washing dishes.
Daryl, oh, I'm sorry. I can't tell who's about to talk. I'm sorry, whoever I'm cutting off. Daryl, this again, because this sounds like there are some technical details in nature. I have to, and that's not any of the specific skill sets that I think that we have here on the board. I wonder if it would be appropriate if there's anyone through shared services, a subject matter expert who might be able to lend some technical advice to us so that we can make sure we get this correct. That might be helpful. I don't know if that person exists through shared services or where else we could look for resources, but I think that we need some more expert opinions to help us inform this accurately.
It sounds
and
to
that's
me
why I've been searching for some other places that reference it. I just have to find them again.
It sounds to me, can I say something?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. So it sounds to me like this issue was discussed at length when the initial um, project was completed, and whenever that was, the 70s. Why don't we review the work that has already been done, and maybe there's been some engineering input at that time that we would still be relevant. I think that the Board of Health probably should just focus on public health. If there's evidence of public safety and, you know, well contamination risks, you know, we can keep it simple and focus on public health, and let hopefully engineering and highway input, everybody can work together and come up with something. But I think we should keep it simple and just focus on public health.
Okay, just a quick note. The documents from when this single open drain, so now we're going to be looking more globally, that single one, there wasn't this kind of consideration done. That was separate. That was not tied to Board of Health. That was to solve a different kind of a problem. So.
Right, but I'm just saying our part can stay simple, because most of it is an engineering, highway safety.
No, because it's about setback from septic systems, but we can talk more about that. So, and take a look at the regulations and which part of the regulation it's in, and that might help channel. But I think, yes, finding a subject matter expert, which will be a little tough in DEP because they don't deal with open drains specifically, but they recognize the issue. But they don't address it in Title V. So they're more deferring from who I've spoken to. They pretty much defer to conservation commissions for their evaluations of setbacks from septics and kind of thing, similar to what we do, and having them review plans. So, so Bob, I think you had your hand up first, and then Jessica.
Sure, thank you, Daryl. Just a couple of thoughts and corrections. First of all, the issue will be before you probably as soon as Monday of next week.
Okay.
So it is time to kind of come up with something, come up with a plan. The second thing I would say is that I believe you're incorrect, that there is a Title V setback to this type of thing, and it is 10 feet. So you can go to Title V and see that. That's second. The third thing I would say, and now it's specific to Farm Road, 3 different engineers working for the town have said that this is not, in fact, an open surface drain, including the town's outside consultant, ACOM, which is an engineering firm the town works with a lot. Also including Joyce Hastings, who is an engineer and the conservation agent. 3 different engineers have said this is not an open surface drain. So that's going to come up certainly. So I think we need to deal with this sooner rather than later. The issue that was discussed in the meeting is that the problem can be resolved. It's an illicit drain from the town, and there are lots and lots of these all over town. And they don't usually cause much trouble, but if somebody wants to go to develop their land and the town has something like an illicit drain, you can't really expect the property owner to not develop their land based on the town doing something that is illicit. But there is a solution. The solution is to bury the water, and then to the extent you determine that this is an open surface drain, which, like I said, 3 different engineers working for the town have said otherwise, but the town can fix it. The problem is it's going to cost tens of thousands of dollars to fix. And it's the town's problem. It's the town's illicit drain. And so I would hope that the board would give a fair amount of consideration to whether it makes sense to spend taxpayer money to fix something that I think a lot of folks would say is not a problem. And if you set the precedent that the town has to go around and fix all of these things. It's not just, 5-figure costs on this site. It's all over town. And I think that's something that is worth the board's time to figure out how to address. So thank you.
So
Bob, do you
we
have
tend not to be driven by financial versus public health issues, just one. And then there's a difference between an illicit drain and regulatorily driven needs for stormwater management within towns. We just happen to qualify for that in Sherborn. So, okay, Jessica, your hand is down, but are you still in line?
Yes, I just wanted to add that I would be happy to work with the board to contract a member of our shared services or a subject matter expert on this discussion. And I also was wondering as well, because some of this topic predates me, if there were discussions with abutters about the current water flow on the property and where it's going now.
We had a good chance to observe that back in the winter. There was a very wet period, so it did highlight pathways that water was taking. But I like the idea of contacting DEP. Again, when I've spoken to them, it just isn't a big issue on their radar, like having something in the regulations, so they didn't have much to say about that but I think digging deeper and maybe getting some more technical background on it would be great. So if you can take that on, that'd be perfect.
Sure, absolutely. And then if we weren't able to necessarily get the clarity on what an open surface drain is, would we then pivot to looking more in depth at the swale definition that's existing?
Yeah, could be. There are, and I'll try to find the EPA reference that talks about open drains, but it is open drain, swale, culvert, something that temporarily channels, channel I think was even another term, channels stormwater flow.
And then
and that's what its purpose is or its function is, whether it was intentional or non-intentional.
You also brought up a good point there too about stormwater management and what each department, like Concom and DPW and Highway and Health, if there's any overlap there and working together to get each other's input, we could also bring this topic up at our land use meetings and see if anybody had some input.
Okay, that'd be good. Was there somebody else who had a hand up? Thought, or Julie started talking? I don't remember. Somebody, but
no, it's passed. It's okay.
Okay. All right. So I think then Jessica, if it's okay with you, the immediate step is trying to contact, see if there's somebody who could help us out with this.
Perfect. I actually have someone in mind, so I'll send that out after this meeting.
Okay. And then, as I said, to change our regulation is going to take a while. If we find stuff that we find compelling, that we think we would change anything, then we could be thinking about short-term variance for new construction if we envision that we're heading towards changing the regulation in a particular way. So.
And I also remember as well that we discussed the possibility of like a French drain there to combat issues, which might be more cost effective. And then we had also, it'll come back to me. I just lost my train of thought.
Okay, that's fine. And when you think about it, just pop in and tell us, okay? Bob.
Yeah, so Daryl, I guess I would say that there are kind of two different issues in how you can handle, well, there are probably more than two. But I think there are two paths in how you could handle this particular situation from a regulatory perspective. As I said, there are three different engineers who work for the town who have said this is not, in fact, an open surface drain. So
I know you
if
mentioned that.
hang on, let me finish what I'm saying. So if the board were to follow the engineering advice of three different engineers working for the town, you could make the decision that it's not an open surface drain and that the setback requirement doesn't apply. So that's one path you could go down. The other, as you said, would be to provide a variance with the kind of thinking that you're about to change the rule. And that would be a kind of a separate regulatory approach. Obviously, as the applicant, I don't really care which you choose, but I think in some ways, following the science and the engineering advice that the town's been given would make the most sense, and it's the most practical approach to resolving the issue, I think. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The board did review the information it had in the prior board composition and came to a different conclusion, so, but anything's open. All right. Seeing that, okay, Brian.
Hi, Brian Moore, 49 Farm Road, downgrading of 65, 53, 55 Farm Road, where we had discussions about open drainage before. I think working towards a definition in your own regulations for open drain would be helpful. And the evaluations related to drainage have used different terminologies. And in some cases, open surface drain was used, open drains were used, culvert issues were used. I think having a clear definition would be a great starting point for any board in the town that needs to work with it. And it might also help to prevent from like a double regulation situation where Concom's calling it one thing and Board of Health is calling it something else. But I can tell you as the downgrading property here, water does flow from that system across 53, across 55, down our property line and into our land. So whatever flows through this alleged illicit discharge has been doing it for about the last 50 years. I don't know if there's some kind of like, it's been doing it for 50 years. So by virtue of the time it's been doing it, it just exists. But it is a substantial amount of flow, and it should, if it's going to be controlled, it needs to be controlled across more than just, 20 feet of street. We're talking about multiple properties, and by virtue, one could argue it's an illicit discharge all the way till it gets to surface water. So, I think working together is a smarter approach to take here to try to resolve the issue, because as we all recall from last winter, having, people slip on the ice and kids falling at the bus stops and cars skidding on the ice is not an acceptable way to try to address this by just simply plugging it up. Thank you for hearing from my comments.
Okay, thank you. So again, this food for thought. We have a plan. Jessica, did you think of the other thing? Otherwise we can move on.
Yes, I had just popped in the chat that when we had all sat down for our meeting, Bob had also mentioned the possibility of an easement so that the town could come in and maintain if necessary.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on. 41 North Main. There are materials. It's getting late. I was going to show the plan, but there are materials on the website. I don't know if people have had a chance to look at it. Oh, actually, I'm going to show it just for one thing that Mark to comment on. coming. There we go. All right. So this is where 16 comes into 27, and there's the light, or one light in town, right down here. And then there's the antique home here. This is the Sherborne Inn, far side over here. And the proposed septic system is here. And it's under a road. So Mark, I know that's frowned upon.
That is correct. The state
The risk of
prefers that.
damage, compaction, all sorts of stuff. Problematic. I see they're trying to preserve this house, which is nice. Be a shame to lose it. Nice piece of history, but anyway, so that's an issue I see. And I also recall that I thought the testing in this area from their prior septic repair upgrade showed some shallow depth to groundwater over here.
Yeah, I believe there could be.
It was like 3.5 feet or something. I
It
don't know.
wasn't conclusive. They never came forward with any plans and so forth, but that was tested originally, I believe, for the house that exists there. They were looking to repair the septic.
Mm-hmm.
But they never
And
came. I can remember. Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I could believe that they need this road just for traffic issues, since there is a light there to aid with getting out and across and navigating North Main Street. Otherwise, there are 2 points of entry. But so
Daryl,
anyway.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
quick. I haven't had a chance to thoroughly look at this, and this is the first time I'm seeing it actually. Do you know where they're planning the well in respect to the?
Yeah, it's going to be over where they put in those other wells.
Oh, okay, I remember that.
That's my understanding of it. But I don't know if it's marked here.
I didn't see it when I had looked through this plan a little, and that was exactly my question mark, is where is the water?
Yeah.
I think it was referenced in one of the written documents. They were talking about the wells. So across the tracks. Getting under the tracks is going to be tricky with that, but you can drill horizontally now. Okay, so that we don't have much information yet. I don't know when. It's coming soon, though.
Right, and Daryl, I'm afraid my brain is slowly shutting down.
No.
But I can't remember what the bedroom count is for this one, but I certainly remember thinking there was a nitrogen loading issue as one of many issues that were just popping up as I was trying to go through this. So I think this is something we'll continue to look at, and just notification for any board members who don't live and die on the town website. The hearing for this 40B is going to begin this Monday, September 9th at 7 p.m.
Thank you. Bob?
Yeah, my question is somewhat similar to Julie's comment, and that is they must be using some type of additional land beyond the acreage shown on this plan, because the number of bedrooms relative to the land isn't even close. It's double or triple the number of bedrooms that you could put on this lot size. So I'm assuming that therefore they must be using the additional land on the other side of the railroad tracks for the nitrogen loading, as you described it, Julie. My question was, have they provided any information on that? Because I'm always interested in how those things work. So
I haven't had time to read everything, but I didn't really see too much else than the few documents I pulled that were relevant to those kinds of questions.
I mean, they must have thought of
Unless
it.
they're
obvious.
interspersed in the old documents somehow, and it's unfortunate because this area already shows elevated nitrogen in the downtown area, and this is going to be a large system concentrated in one place. So that's a challenge. Doesn't matter if there's another bunch of acres back here, still coming out here, still going to have a concentrated plume running out of it. Okay, so that was the other issue, and now I think we're almost done.
Down to the minutes.
Minutes for approval. Okay. Let's just start with 318. So do we have a?
Hang on, Daryl, I think I think what had happened last time, sorry, I want to clarify, and this is also confirming with my fellow board members. I think that we had a motion and a second, and then we had the issue of there were 2 ayes and everyone else abstained, and so whether or not that could actually pass. And so I feel like I would like to just be able to check this off the list. I don't know if there's an issue if we move it again and vote on it again, because I think that we're not going to have that kind of issue now that Diana is here.
Except for that
Yeah,
Diana
no.
wasn't there on the 18th.
Oh, you
Well, you can vote in spirit. There is that option. Only if you're comfortable with doing that. The spirit of affirming the minutes. Otherwise, we do have the split vote.
Right,
Which usually means no action, which means that it doesn't get approved at all. That's the issue. Like if you had 2 yeses and 2 nos on something, and it was, a motion to do something different, you would stay status where you were. So that's a challenge.
Okay. But we didn't have nay votes, we just had
Abstentions, huh?
yeah, abstentions. And so was it just Daryl, Matt, and I that were at that meeting? Is that what that?
Yes, I was looking
Is
at
that
the
what that
notes.
was? Okay.
I looked through my own notes and I don't have it. I have 418.
Okay.
I do not have 318.
Oh, so, all right, so maybe, I forgot it was 2 abstentions. So maybe, count, well, then I guess it sounds like we're not going to get a different vote. Only maybe we'd have 3 abstentions now.
Does that make it better?
So why don't we, all right, Jessica, maybe you could check with Jackie Morris to find out on this voting thing.
I'll circle back to you all.
Okay. All right. 6-5. I didn't have enough time between when it came in yesterday and today to finish.
Carol, yesterday was 6:27, not 6:05.
Oh, 6:20. Oh, okay, good. 6:05, I think I did a while ago. Excellent.
Yes, I have your edits from 6:05.
Yeah, okay, great. So do we have a motion? Oh, did anyone else get a chance to submit edits if you wanted to? Or is everyone happy with what they have or have not sent in?
I have no edits.
Okay. So are we ready for a motion to approve the minutes of 6/5/24? As amended?
As amended? Yep, so moved.
Seconded.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none?
Steve Constantine abstain.
Julie Dreyfus abstain. I was not present at that meeting.
Oh, no, Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Darrell Beardsley, aye.
Okay, so we had a quorum.
Yes. And I sent you edits for 821, right? Just before the meeting?
Yes, I received. And I also have
Okay.
received some edits from Diana. Thank you, Diana, for taking the time.
And Jessica
Okay.
sent an email as well with
And Julie.
edits.
Thank you, Julie.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the minutes as amended for 8/21/24?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any other discussion? Hearing none?
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Darrell Beardsley, aye. Okay, agenda items.
Daryl, we're going to hold off on the June 27th. Is that what we said? I know that those were provided. I know it's not on the agenda, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I got partway through them. I had no more
Okay.
time to spare between
That's fine.
yesterday and today.
Better
So,
about where we are.
yeah,
That's I just want to make sure I note it.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay, agenda items for next. So Brush Hill, sounds like information will be forthcoming there. Open surface drain, maybe we'll have an update, but Jessica, you could kind of monitor that, whether we've got something new to digest, which would be wonderful, especially if we're going to be looking at this sooner than later. And
The Pine Residences, we're going to continue just to track that.
yeah, yep. Pine Residences, I guess I'll try to attend the meeting, see if there's more information coming soon. But if anyone else can make the ZBA, that'd be great.
Okay. I should be able to.
I'm gonna try as well.
Okay, so this then begs the question, I don't even know if we can post for a Monday meeting, even if tomorrow. Do we want to, I don't know, do we want to have Jessica look into whether it's possible to post so we could have a discussion if we wanted, if there was a quorum of the board at the ZBA?
I would suggest, Daryl, that I bet there's going to be a lot of presentation of information. I suspect that the likelihood of the board needing to discuss anything, given that nothing has been provided to us within our purview, seems really unlikely. And so if people were to comment, they could comment in their own individual capacity. And I think you just avoid having to post it. I think once we actually have materials in front of us and we have a quorum, then absolutely we should post it.
Okay. Everyone else okay with that?
Makes sense.
Yes, that makes sense.
And
right,
just so
great.
the board knows, we have 4 variances. The first one starts at 7:30. The last one ends at 8:30. So we'll be busy that night.
Busy.
Mm.
Yep. Okay.
Thanks, Mark. That was my comment.
Thank you.
Okay. If anything comes up that anyone feels should be added, forward it to Jessica. Okay. Anyone interested in a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
I'm not going to hear any discussion, so Steve.
Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
And Darrell Beardsley, aye. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Right.